Hey everyone, it's Martyn here for the latest episode of the Martyn Sibley show. And I'm really excited to be joined by Depika Mistry, beaming in from London. Whereabouts in London are you?
I'm in Forest Hill in London.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. So obviously just a quick intro from my side really is that Depika and I met, as a few of my guests, at Jason Goldberg and Ajit Navalkar via the vortex of Mindvalley. So there was the Barcelona, was it 2 years ago now? Can you remember, Depika?
Oh, yes, it was 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah, so we met out in Barcelona at Mindvalley University, and we didn't have any sort of deep chats in Barcelona, but we touched base, and then obviously Facebook and all that world kept us a bit in contact. And I guess it was it November time last?
It was, yeah, last year.
And you came down to meet Kasia and I out in Cambridgeshire, and it was just one of those meetings, wasn't it, where we just discussed all sorts of amazing topics. It was so cool.
Everything and anything. We just it was one conversation after another conversation, and we just lost track of time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was everything to mindset, to energy, to all sorts of random things.
Yeah, and all around them and everything in between. Exactly. So yeah, obviously the plan for everyone watching and listening is just, I think Depika is an amazing person. She's got such a lot of gifts and an amazing message to give. And I know that, I think it's always with podcasts that everyone takes away different things. I don't know if you found that, Depika, when you're consuming blogs and podcasts, like there's often the one thing that really will resonate with you and it will be different from someone else. But I know that through our chat today, people are going to get a lot out of it. So thank you for coming on.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Cool. So as always, I just get the guests to just give a little sort of whatever you feel is relevant to share about your story and your background with people.
Oh, goodness, I don't know where to start.
Well, it's a broad question, but yeah, like,
it's a broad question.
Go with your gut.
Where do I start? So I've had so I did a computer science degree. Computer science degree led me to work in corporate, into management consulting. So this, you're talking about, I don't know, 15, 16 years ago now. So I've been doing that for a while. Yeah. But I would say the major, we all have in our lives various different turning points, whether we realize something about ourselves or we realize something about the world, and it really just shifts us and drives us in a different direction. I always thought that, having started a career in corporate, that I would get all the way to the top and be a partner in some firm or something. Yeah. But it was probably about, you're looking back 10 years ago now, and I was severely burnt out, but I didn't know it at the time. And what was going on was that I was suffering from depression, anxiety, but I would just wouldn't admit it to myself. I just pushed through and just, no, I'm totally fine. Anyone ask for help, anyone offering their help, I would say, no, I'm totally fine. And I think that's where, like, this journey that I'm on right now really started, because there was a moment in an office where I had heart palpitations. And then I heard this voice, and it was like, Depika, what are you doing? And I'm just like, I don't know. And it was like, if you don't have your health, you can't work. If you can't work, you don't make any money. If you don't make any money, you're going to lose the home that you've just purchased. And that home for me, which is where I'm sitting in at the moment, it's everything. It's the one where I kind of found myself, in terms of who I truly am, being somebody that's quite sensitive. I've kind of gone through the world, absorbing people and doing what the right thing is to do rather than what the right thing is for me to kind of do. I think my journey really started there. And then just kind of fast forward, I quit that work. I went traveling. And one of the key things I found in traveling is like, I didn't know who I was, or who I am or at the time. And I used to kind of text my friends and I'd say, okay, what shall I do today? And I'll be in New Zealand and Australia, and my friends will be in London. And I'll be asking them, what shall I do today? I couldn't even make simple decisions like that. So, fast forward a little bit, I hired a coach and I discovered there was something called self-love. I'm just like, whoa, there's something called self-love? I don't even like myself, never mind loving myself, but how do I get from, there to there? Yeah. And, it's one of those things that when you're really ready, things just start automatically when you open up, and it's almost like in a place of surrender. Because in that point, 10 years ago, I just said, there's got to be another way. And that was it. I just said, there's got to be another way. I don't know what it is, but I'm willing to try everything and anything, because nothing could be as bad as what I've got right now. So that's really what it felt like to be at rock bottom. And then through the coaching, I got the book, The Power of Now, another CBT book by, I think it's Avery Joseph. And I was reading The Secret. So I read all three of those books at the same time. So The Power of Now really gave me a sense of my old kind of programming, and The Secret kind of gave me the more positive aspect of how you can live your life. And then the CBT book helped me to kind of reprogram myself. So with the computer science background, I could actually really reprogram my mind. And then the rest was kind of history. Then I kind of went to intuition workshop. And through that workshop, I found that I was quite intuitive, that I could read people's energies. So then my work over that kind of has developed. And now these days I do energy healing coaching, and I still do change management within the corporate space. So there's loads in that story, but I just thought, let me fast forward a little bit and give you the key bits of it.
Yeah, no, that's a really good summary of it. And I think a lot more people these days have multiple titles. I think Jason Goldberg on his Facebook, he's put that he's this, that, the other, and he's a collector of titles. And I know that when I give talks at conferences, I'm never quite sure which of the things I do to lead with, but I think that's the beauty of the variety as well.
And I think we're more than one thing,
Absolutely,
we're multiple things. We can play multiple roles. So you can be a mother, a father, a daughter, a son, a brother, a sister. You in the workplace, like I've had multiple roles in the workplace. I could be a project manager, a business analyst, a mentor, a mentee, so there's always different titles that we can give ourselves. And I think that's one of the key things that for anyone, just remember, we're more than just one thing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So there's so much to unpack there, unsurprisingly. But I guess just touching upon when you're at that low point, you mentioned that there were others offering sort of to give you help. So it sounds like others could spot that you were not in a good place. So like, what was there? I mean, you probably did touch upon it a bit, but I guess it's just sort of trying to help others with how to be self-aware and to accept when they need to make change. Have you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm to be perfectly honest, it was tough, right? Because it's almost, when you're in that state, you're a victim, right? And part of the way that you get nurtured and fed is for people offering their support to you. Yeah. So it's almost like, although you don't actively take it, you love the attention that it kind of gives you. And it was hard for me to admit this, right? And it was years. There was a really good friend of mine, and she always mentions this to me. She goes, I remember had been on a call with you, and it's like, it's like, Depika, I just didn't know what to do with you. I've offered so many things to you, but you just weren't taking any of it. And I just didn't know at that time how I could help you. So, then it gets to a point, again, in that kind of situation where there's a person or several people that have been reaching out to help, and they're just like, I don't know what to do, So, and then they feel helpless, so therefore they drift away, and therefore it might cause yourself to kind of go into a spiral, right? Luckily, it was one of those things where I think for me, personally, having the support system outside was great. Right, but it was a decision I had to make internally.
Yeah, it has to come from you.
Yeah, it wasn't anything that anyone could do for me.
Yeah,
right? I couldn't accept anyone's help unless I was ready to help myself.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so when you mentioned like about being a coach and an energy healer, and we've talked about this a few times in our other conversations before the podcast. A few years ago, that word energy always for me sounded that kind of woo-woo and a bit scary and all that kind of stuff. And then obviously through Mindvalley, through Kasia, who's very into that world, and more, it's become normalized for me. But like, I know now there's so much more science backing this stuff up. But I guess it'd just be great to hear your views on how real and tangible and important energy is, particularly for those that are a bit dismissive of it just because it sounds a bit woo-woo.
Hey, I'm one of those biggest dismissive persons in the world. Come on,
Yeah.
I come from a science background, so, and a corporate background, and I didn't believe in anything like even doing astrology, nothing like that. I thought energy was just a whole load of crap.
Yeah.
Okay. So the best way I can explain it, and here's something that maybe your viewers can actually, and listeners, I don't know whether, will they be able to view this or is it just
Yeah,
listening?
it'll be on YouTube and it
Okay.
will be on just as a podcast as well. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, one of the things that you can do to kind of feel energies is almost hold your hands out like this. And if you imagine like an infinity sign just kind of bouncing off, so it's almost like you can then start to feel it. And then what happens? Just hold your hand like that for a little bit. And then you kind of widen it and then shorten it. And then you'll start feeling like a magnetic effect on your hands. So, and sometimes you just have to hold it there for a little bit and believe in it, and then you'll start feeling it. And that was one of the first ways that I felt energy. And I was like, whoa. And it just almost felt like this ball that you're holding onto, and you can actually move and feel, right? The other way is if you like have your body or your arm like that, you can almost just touch somebody's aura and they'll be able to feel you. So if someone does that to you, you'll be able to feel them without them actually touching you.
Yeah.
So that's the most tangible way I can explain that we're more.
And that's cool because you've not even said there's because there are studies, by the way, that are proving through sort of quantum physics and all other sciences how it works. But as you say, actually, an individual can literally do that themselves and feel that as well.
Yeah. Exactly. And you can, like, when I do this on my own arm, I can actually feel that. And you can do it on other parts of your body and you can start to feel that. And that's how I actually fell into it. I didn't know what energy was. I just started having Epsom salt baths with essential oils, and then my hands started moving. So that's the first way I've experienced it.
Yeah.
Going back to your question, you need to remind me. I've just kind of gone off topic again.
No, that's cool. So good.
So that's one of the ways that you can feel energy, and it's you have to remind me of the question again.
Well, yeah, no, I think you've answered the question in terms of that it's real and it's not just imaginary. And I suppose the follow-on is around, so why does that matter, and how by sort of working with energy can people feel better, really?
Okay, so that's quite a big question, and I think it all goes
all the
down
big questions on the Martyn Sibley show.
Well, with energy, I can only speak from my experience in terms of how it's helped me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And from being somebody that's been a non-believer to someone that now works in this way, I think we all have the ability to feel energy, bottom line, you know. And the greatest example that I can give you is like if you go into a room and you were happy before you entered that room, you got into the room and you will start getting agitated or frustrated or feeling sad. And then you notice that someone's angry or having a yelling match in the corner of that room. So you've almost picked up their vibe. So that's another way of kind of recognizing energy is the vibe.
I get that. I'm a very empathetic and compassionate person, so when someone shares a problem or something that is not going good, I really internalize that and feel that as well.
And most of us, if we're empathetic, we can feel it as our own, so we think we are the problem. Rather than the person expressing their problem, we take it on as our own problem, you know? And I think being aware of that on an energetic level, so those are the things that you can actually shift. So if you have an awareness of how sensitive you are, you can then start putting in boundaries, right? So you recognize, well, actually, I better not spend too much time with such and such person because after that, I feel low, you know? So you start managing your boundaries better in that sense. Oh, actually, this makes me happy. Or actually, this makes me feel good. So then you spend more time doing something like that. And for me, my own experience, I suffered severely from back pain, you know, with my job and stuff like that. And now I can say I don't. And also for me, there's so much to energy, and I'm trying to make it relevant to someone that doesn't know anything.
As you said, so it is a very, very big question as well. I'd appreciate that.
And then there's another, I'm going to go to the other end of the spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
where people can see energies, where people can see auras. And when you come to that end of the spectrum, whether you're a believer or non-believer, every one of us is connected to everything around us.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a part in this where with energy, when you go into the energetics of things, you can start shifting things on a whole other level. So you may be playing out an unconscious pattern, or a mindset that you just believe in a certain way, but no matter what you do, you're aware of it, but you can't change it. And then when you bring energy into that equation, you can then start looking at, okay, so where does this come from, right? We just take it on as that's ours. So if there's a specific I'm not good enough kind of thing, you may have learned that as a child and been told that you were never good enough, right? But even if you've unpicked that and done the coaching around that and resolved that, you still may be getting the feeling of I'm not good enough. Then you start bringing energy into it. So where does that actually come from? So with energy, you can go fast forward in time, go back in time, look at the energetics of what's coming down your family line, whether there's beliefs and patterns coming down, your mother or father side of the family. And then you can have a look, and this goes a little bit into the woo-woo space of past lives. What things are you carrying over as a soul from your past lives? So that's the other extreme of it. So therefore it's energy so big. Basically everything and anything is possible when you work with energy.
When you talked about past life and you said obviously like the soul side, is there any like on the DNA side as well? Could there be some things passed down through that aspect?
Yeah, so energetically, and I have done some work with some of my clients where you can adjust the DNA, and there are specialists that work on DNA activation and activating energetically different parts of your DNA.
Yeah.
And it's almost like when you get intimate with someone, there's scientific fact that when you're intimate with someone, you share part of them is left with you kind of thing, and part of yourself is left with them, right? So when it comes to if people have been abused when they were a child for something, a part of the abusers is left with them as they go through into adults. So some of the work that I've done with some of my clients is shifting the energy on that side. So you basically, you clear that person of the energies of the person that may have abused them in the past. So therefore they can move forward in their life, and they come and they find, what I often find with these clients is that they have a newfound freedom. So that is the power of it in a very real life example.
That's amazing to be able to articulate it that well. And as you say, it's almost just the energy can come in different forms, and it can be negative in different forms, but at the end of the day, if you can be aware of it and then shift it, you're then clearer and less foggy and more happy to crack on with other things. In a very simplistic way, but I'm sure it's way more involved in terms of the actual helping people to find those things about themselves.
And I think there's great tools that you can use is really visualization using different colors, and imagine like you can sit with your eyes closed and imagine like a white bubble around you, and that white bubble around you is purifying you. Or you can imagine there's like raindrops that's coming down, and if you're someone that's into crystals, I always tell my clients, imagine that you've got amethyst and rose quartz raindrops over your head, and the energies of the crystals are quite powerful, so it kind of is a nice way of cleansing you in that sense. And another one is getting out into nature and grounding.
I was just about to say that. We're on the same wavelength there. Yeah, go on, carry on.
So around grounding is another way. So if you are confined in a chair or anything like that, you can, whoever's with you, you can get them to hold your feet, and as long as they're connected to the earth, they can almost imagine that they're kind of bringing the energy of the earth through their body and into your feet. And then as you breathe, just imagine that you're taking the energy from their hands, from your feet, up into your body. That's one way. The other way,
whether you're like in the chair or not, what's the benefit generally of grounding with nature then?
Grounding with nature is if you have a very busy mind and you're chatting. Grounding with nature it kind of brings your energy, because if you've got a busy mind and hectic and you're always trying to figure something out here, your energy is going to be sitting here.
Yeah.
Right? And you're ignoring the rest of your body.
Yeah.
If you imagine your body as an energetic system, if most of it sits up here, this is where all the stress is going to be. Grounding really helps to bring that energy from up here all the way down. Same with breath work.
Yeah, because we talked before, didn't we? I said how I'd had a few more colds and coughs this winter, and you were saying to try to essentially, be more aware and to move the energy, not from always thinking, which I tend to do, but to try to get more flowing around the rest of my body.
And you're not the only person. There's so many, and I'm one of them as well, that often can overanalyze, and we're taught how to think our way through, right? We're not taught how to kind of shift our energy our way through, right? Or shift our emotion, or just befriend our emotion, just become best friends with it. So if we're feeling crap about something, just become best friends with that feeling of crap, and just say, hey crap, how are you doing today?
Not to fight it, but to accept it.
Just to accept it, just saying, I honor you, I love you, I know you have a reason, I know you're showing something that I'm not happy about, that I might not be acknowledging, so it's like that. So grounding is one of the tools that kind of just helps you become more present. And
meditation and mindfulness presumably is another one, right?
Yes. There's just so many different tools, and even having a bath is a great meditative tool. Swimming, shower, whatever it is. Water's great. The earth is great. Even sitting and bathing yourself in sunlight.
It's just so interesting, isn't it? You don't, I mean, you do, because it's very much part of what you do now, but a lot of people don't see it in a prism of energy or of nature, but actually people will go for a shower or a bath to calm down. They like lying in the sunlight and they feel better, but we just don't ever think of it in that prism normally.
Exactly. And if you do it with intention, so if you can recognize if you're feeling crap or something, or if you're feeling depleted, great way to do is sunlight. And if there is no sunlight, because being in the UK, it's always cloudy and the rest of it, apart from hopefully in the summer it gets more sunnier. But what you can imagine doing is, if you close your eyes and visualize there's a sun above you, it's almost like you'll start seeing, when you close your eyes and you're facing the sun and it kind of goes white a little bit, you might start feeling that. And just imagine that the sun is kind of filling you up with warmth. Right.
It's kind of, in a way, it's placebo as well, isn't it? You're talking about how we think that the drugs we take help, but often it's the thought that because we're taking it, we're going to get better. But the thought is actually the more powerful thing.
Yeah, and if you can visualize it or imagine it, and if you're not someone that's visual, you can just say, okay, there's a sun above me and that sun is shining on me. Close your eyes. I'm feeling the heat on my face. It's going down my throat, down my rest of my body, out through my feet, and where I feel depleted, it's just recharging me. Something really simple like that. So I use the sun for kind of replenishing and recharging, and when I'm feeling depleted, I use water for when like a shower or bath, when I feel like I'm carrying people's burdens and carrying my own burden as well.
Cleansing, isn't it? Really,
Very cleansing tool. And grounding I use to kind of connect with something when I've just gone where I shrunk or just got stuck in my mind or something. I use grounding to kind of really connect, or when I've got an idea and the idea is not coming out into reality, I use grounding as a tool, because that's another thing. If your idea is stuck up here and you're thinking about it, talking about it, but you're not seeing anything in reality, grounding is a great way of bringing that out.
And often people say, don't they, go for it could be a writer, it's almost the cliche one's a writer, but any creative person, they go for the walk and suddenly they're like, oh yeah, there we go, that's the thing I've been trying to do. Cool.
So
Go on, what were you going to say?
I lost it. It's fine.
I was going to say that so one of the other things that I think when you visited, and I was looking at my work projects and all the sort of different things that I aspire to do and the communities I want to serve, and that you were really able to help me get my mindset a bit straighter, almost in overcomplicating. And so I just wanted to just put that out, that was phenomenal how you were able to help me, through seeing those patterns and change them and help me change them. But really the last point I wanted to just get your thoughts on was about leadership. which was something we had a little picked up on before we started recording. And I just loved what you said about that. And I think a lot of people that watch these World Changer podcasts, they are leaders, and they may not even realize it themselves, but they are leaders. And yeah, just be great for you to share those thoughts you gave.
No, you're testing my memory, because when I say things in the moment, being so intuitive and energetically, I say things and I don't always remember. I'm going to see if I can remember it. So I think, when you look at a leader, what really is a leader? A leader is someone that is working on themselves to better themselves. So, they recognize from, today they can do something better than what they did yesterday.
Yeah.
And then they're the ones that are kind of sharing their viewpoints and sharing it with others. And in that sharing, because that takes courage as well. It's one thing to kind of do the work within yourself, but it also takes courage to share an opinion or a viewpoint that is completely different to the norm.
Yeah.
Right. And at the same time, you're inspiring people to take the same kind of actions, but you're not enforcing them to. It's almost like you're empowering them to be themselves. And that's how I see leadership. It's not even a person. It's more like a vibe that you carry as an individual. That you have this vibe that just as soon as you're in contact with someone, you inspire them, or you give them a little food for thought, or you shift them in a certain way. And I think, especially being in corporate, there's such a structure around what leadership looks like. And I look at some of those leaders and I'm just like, you're not a leader. But actually, you're a leader, but you're not at the position of a leader. So I think we are all leaders in our own way. And it's our ability, when we kind of honor ourselves and really be true to ourselves and then share that truth with others, I think that is leadership. It's a slightly different way, because what you're doing by sharing your truth, you're also inspiring the other person to be themselves as well.
And so the context that I found with that was that I always was focused on disability, and I'm supporting or empowering disabled people, which has all been brilliant and fantastic. But I wasn't conscious of the effect that my actions had on people that weren't disabled or remotely involved in disability. But like you say, I think that vibe of just putting out videos and being bold and courageous about speaking out, people find that really inspiring and empowering, even if their path is nothing to do with your path as well.
Exactly. And I think it's because we're all energetic beings. That's the way that I look at it. We're energetic beings that have a mind and have a body.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Well, I think we'll come to the end, unfortunately, Depika. There's obviously a million more things we can chat on about, but I think that's a really fantastic, to cover those different topics we've done today. And I'm sure, as we said at the beginning, people are going to take a lot out of it. Is there anything you want to close with saying, or definitely let people know how they can find you as well?
That's a good point. You can find me on Instagram at Anoumi Change.
And how do you spell Anoumi?
That's great point. It's spelled Anoume and Change. Or I've got a Facebook page which is called Anoumi. And then again on LinkedIn, I've got a page there called Anoumi as well.
Rocking the social media channels.
All the social media channels, and anoumi.com, which is the most simplest one.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure in a few months we can have another catch up and hear about the things you've been getting on with, and any new thoughts and inspirational messages for people. But thank you again for joining me today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.